Hello and welcome to Host Planet Bitesize, the podcast brought to you by Host Planet and Hostfully. My name's James Varley, the founder of Host Planet, and our goal is to share everything you need to know about buying and managing short-term rentals. Today's guest is Carlos Castillo from Direct BookMe, and he'll be sharing some essential hosting tips. Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi code?" Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planet, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and HostPlanetGB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. Carlos, thank you for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize. You've got 5 hosting tips to share, so take it away with tip number 1.
Well, thanks for having me, James. Our first tip is build trust like it's your business. Guests don't just book a property; they book trust, and they want to make sure that they are safe. They know where they're going. They know who they're going to be seeing. They know where they're going to be staying. And then get to know your guest. Find your niche. Understand your ideal guest and who your market and who you're directly going after. If it's honeymooners, if it's an event, maybe a football match or any festival or any concert. If you get to know your niche, you can definitely go after that specific traveler that you're seeking. And then communication is your superpower. A quick, thoughtful message can turn into a 4-star stay. Just be thoughtful and remember that someone's there staying in your property and you have to look out for them. And then systemize what you can, personalize what you can't. Automate your routine so that things can be easier, like hospitality and paying attention to the host. So you can be there and make those personal touches. And then at the end of the day, remember, it's hospitality. Act like it. So you want people to feel like it's a vacation. You want them to feel that warm, fuzzy feeling, as they say, that they're coming over to your place, whether it's for a long-term stay because their job sent them there or that money that they saved to spend that great family vacation. But it's hospitality. Don't rely just on AI and all these technology. Be there for your guest.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah. So trust, know your guest, communication is your superpower, systemize and automate where you can, and remember it's hospitality. I just want to go back to that first one specifically. Trust, specifically when it comes to building direct booking websites. How do you build in that trust? How do you ensure that when a guest sees your property or sees your website, they're going to trust you and trust that they want to make this booking?
I say that consistency is the biggest key. Make sure your website is always functioning. Make sure that your listing is always looking good. That your pictures, if you're going to change something, that's fine. You can change up a few things, but be consistent in the overall approach. Consistency is key.
And when it comes to knowing your guest, then tip number 2, a lot of people think about this and maybe kind of don't kind of dig down far enough to really think about who their guest is. They might think, well, I just take bookings from whoever. But just how important is it to like clearly understand who you're targeting with your rental?
Well, everyone's always saying, I need bookings, I need bookings, I need my calendar full. Sure, that's great, but sometimes that's not possible. So if you can just make that tweak and go after, let's say I'm going to use, I live in Florida, right? So who comes here? There's younger people that like to party. There's beachgoers, a lot of people that go on cruises. Certain things that are happening within your community, events, use that to your advantage because not always someone's going to want to come to where you're in your area. So if you stay up to date with things that are happening, then that gives you another tool, another way to get more bookings and keep your calendar, within that certain percentage of keeping bookings.
And what are your top tips in relation to guest communication and also automation? Where can hosts really nail these two aspects of hosting?
Well, as far as automation, I like to use automation for those small messages, those details that people always like to know, the Wi-Fi, if you have a code to get into your door, how to turn on the air condition, how to turn on the heat, those little small details that you don't constantly have, that people constantly ask, just automate those because those don't change. Those are always the same effect. How does the light come on? How do I use the dishwasher? How do I get to the backyard? Those. How do I get to your place? So those little things you can automate. And then what was that second part of your question? I'm sorry.
In terms of the guest communication, what are your top tips for communicating with guests?
Well, AI is becoming the big thing that people are trying out. I've yet to come across a platform that I really rely on, but emails and text messaging and a phone call, and just your best ability is availability. Just be available, for your guests, because at the end of the day, that's what you're there for.
And talk to us about hospitality as well. I mean, how important is it, especially with AI and, so many automations in place and self-checking and all that kind of thing? How important is it to remember the hospitality aspect and occasionally have that face-to-face interaction with your guests?
Of course, and I understand with hospitality, you might not even be in the same area as your place that you're having listed, so that's where the messaging comes into play. But just always be available and be hospitable. Know that someone's there, and it's also a two-way street. The guest has to know that's a 10 to 15 minute window of responding sometimes can happen. You don't the host does have a life as well, right? So it's a two-way streeting understanding. But hospitality, with especially with all the AI that's going on, is kind of taking away a little bit. I say we rely on it. We don't want to rely too much. It should have its place in it, but hospitality is definitely important. We have to be able to be there for our guests and just be available for their needs for when they need something.
So tell us a bit more about Direct Book Me. What is this platform and why did you set it up?
So Direct Book Me, in a nutshell, it's a marketing platform for short-term rentals. We loved short-term rentals and what the that unique feeling that they bring. And but then we started wanting to book direct and try to find these hosts, and kind of save on these fees and all these algorithms and all these things that were happening with the bigger platforms. So that's when the light bulb went off, and I was like, wait a minute, there isn't a central hub or a place where direct bookings do live. It was all over the place. Yeah, you would search on Google, search on social media, couldn't get in touch with the host. So we said, wait a minute, let's be that bridge. Let's connect guest and host so they have somewhere where they can meet in the middle. And that's when the light bulb went off.
And just tell us more about the platform. Is it's a kind of a listing platform? And if people want to find out more, where do they go?
So, Direct Book Me, it's considered a marketing platform. We are lead generators. The host can list their property on our website for a subscription based fee. Right now, we're in trial phase, and you can go on www.directbookme.co to find our website. And like I said, we just generate that lead. At the end of the day, it's a book per request, so that the host will get that email, that notification that their guest wants to stay on your property, and then you make the final decision on whether they stay or not.
So it's like an annual subscription. It's just like a one-off fee, and it doesn't matter like how many bookings you get and all that kind of thing.
So right now, it's a subscription, monthly subscription. There's two tiers. It's $10 a month per property that you have listed on the site, plus $15 per booking request that goes to the host, whether you finish that booking request or not. Or if you want, you can go to the $39.99 a month plan. If you're seeing that you're getting a little more traction, and then you no longer that $15 per booking request is no longer. But right now we're in trial phase. We're gathering, more inventory for hosts. We want to be able to provide inventory, and so that when we do market to guests can come on over and see that there is places. I mean, right now we just hit 100 listings on our site. We've been around for about a year, putting this thing together. So little by little, we're building.
Sounds great. We will put the links to it in the show notes. Carlos, thanks very much for sharing those tips and for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize.
All right. Thank you very much, James. Happy to be on Host Planet, and thanks again.
All right, that's it for today's episode. My thanks to Carlos for joining us on today's show and sharing those essential tips. Remember, this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Hostfully, which is trusted by short-term rental professionals across the globe. As a Host Planet listener, you get 2 exclusive offers: $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software. Just use the code PLANET500, and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Use the code HostPlanetGB. To grab these deals, click the link in the show notes or head to hostfully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit hostplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, happy hosting.